Look at that emotion.
Around the outside. It's time to bring the action.
Welcome to episode 2 of SMX Insider. We are your insiders, Jason Wygant, Daniel Blair, as we are within a month of the opening round of Monster Energy AMA Supercross. Then we'll roll into the Pro Motocross Championship, and the first ever Super Motocross World Championship with 3 playoff rounds will take us right through the fall. It's going to be a dynamite year, but right now it's Christmas time, and people are getting packages dropped off on their doorstep by the FedEx guy like every day, and that's the way it feels, Daniel, in the Motocross and Supercross news cycle as well.
Yeah, it's like this. Refresh, news. Refresh, news. It's like every day. And December is normally kind of a little So I'm going to take it. Every single day we get something new. And there's implications on the Super Motocross World Championship playoff too. So a lot to get into today.
Yep, we finally know what team Ken Roczen is going to ride for. There's some Justin Cooper news as an addition to the 450 squad for Monster Energy, Yamaha Star Racing, and a lot of other things to unpack. But we're going to try to help you get through the holidays. We don't want you to hang out with your relatives and talk politics. We know that'll get gnarly, so we're going to give you a game you can play, and we'll preview it for you. We're going to call it the What If game, and we'll do this quite frequently on SMX Insider. We're going to play What If, and we're going to focus on these playoff points. We will have a playoff at the end of the 2023 season. We're going to look at what the standings would have been if we had a playoff in 2022. We'll talk 450 class this week. There'll be a 250 class as well. We'll talk about that in future episodes. So Daniel, we'll put the stats. This is basically the combined points from Supercross and Motocross in 2022. What things jump out there for you?
Well, Eli Tomac had a pretty good season. I'll start right there.
Yeah.
He was pretty good. And with that success would have come the #1 seed into the playoff if it was this season or if it was last season. You know what I'm saying? That stands out to me. Dylan Ferrandis is what stands out to me, too. You're talking about the 2021 champ of the Pro Motocross 450 championship. He wouldn't even make the top 20 in the playoffs if the format was intact this year alone. He had the injury in Supercross. We know he missed the motocross start of the championship with the thumb injury on press day, of all places. That would put him outside of the top 20. You know what that means? He would have to go through the LCQ at all 3 playoff rounds to compete for that championship. But there is one caveat when it comes to Dylan Ferrandis. He actually won a 250 Supercross championship that way. If anyone can go through the LCQ and win a title, it's him. And if it was a year ago, Super Motocross format, he would have had to do it that way.
It just gives you an idea. Someone's going to be in that situation, although it's not as dire as you think. I mean, Ferrandis barely raced last year. He missed about 3/4 of the season. What sticks out to me is Cooper Webb and Marvin Muscan, they didn't even race outdoors at all. Marvin didn't race any in the 450 class. He did one 250 outdoor race. And then we had Ryan Dungey last year jump in for motocross. Didn't race any supercross. Look where they end up in the rankings. Right in the middle. Comfortably in the top 20. Right around the top 10. They'll have a few points to make up in that situation seeding-wise. But I was surprised. I really thought, for example, Webb not racing outdoors. Oh, if we had a playoff scenario, he'd be out. He wouldn't even qualify.
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack with this too. And I think year one's going to explain a lot when it comes to the points and the seeding and the strategies in place. But yeah, you said it.
Yeah, and again, we're just showing you the 2022 numbers to give you a preview of what it could feel like in 2023. And what also is interesting is Eli Tomac has come out and said he has a Supercross only contract. The plan would be to retire after the Salt Lake City finale. But what if he's feeling good and realizes, even if I don't race motocross, I'm still going to be like 8th or 9th seed? Can I win 3 races in a row and make $1 million in the Super Motocross World Championship?
Yeah, I'm guessing when he signed that contract for Supercross only, he obviously wasn't aware that this was coming. So you never know what's going to happen. I could see a scenario where he ends up still racing Pro Motocross. I could see a scenario where he says, you know what, I'm good. I'm done. I'm happy. I'm going to walk away. I could also see a scenario where he decides midsummer, hey, I can get in these last couple Pro Motocross Nationals, get myself re-warmed up, stack some points, get my seating a little better, and then come in and go on a blitz for those final 3. And Jason, we know that he's not the type that comes out firing early. I mean, last year at the round 1 in Anaheim, he was 7th. Last year at Paula, Moto 1, he was 7th. So he's not like a Moto 1 round 1 killer. But if he comes in the last 2 or 3 outdoor nationals and says, you know, let me stretch out a little bit, let me warm back up, he could come back for those final 3. So I'd keep an eye on that scenario. I think it's not only likely, but well, I'll say the other way. I don't think it's likely. I think it's something to look out for, though.
The last piece that's intriguing there, and as I said, we'll talk 250 class for the playoff scenarios next week. But there's a couple guys on the fence, and again, we can just use them as an example. We believe Jett Lawrence, they've already announced it. He's going to race 250 Supercross, 450 motocross, for example. Christian Craig essentially did the same thing last year.
Yeah, we'll start with Craig. He wins the 250 championship, which is great, stacked a lot of points. Pro motocross, though, he was a top 5 guy, did really, really well. So he would come in seated decent in both. I mean, a chance to be successful in 250 or 450. He would have a decision to make if this was a year ago. And this could go a number of different ways. I mean, if you're feeling good on the 450, maybe you just roll on in and say, you know what, I'm going to go for it. I'm going to go for that top championship. Or you drop back down on the bike you know you were good at earlier in the year and say, I can win this one a little easier. If it's never easy, but if it's going to be easier, it'd be that way. So for Jett Lawrence, he's going to find himself in the exact same position. 250 Supercross, 450 motocross, and the decision will be made before the playoffs start. I think the easy route is to go back to the 250. I mean, he's been dominant on that bike over the last year and a half. But knowing them, knowing him and his team, they're not going to do that. So I'm going to take a leap of faith right now and predict that Jett Lawrence will race the 250 Supercross, 450 motocross, and I bet we see him in the 450 class when we hit the SuperMotocross playoffs.
The only thing we know for sure is the good news of where you can watch all this. All 31 races, that's Monster Energy Supercross, the Pro Motocross Championship, the 2 playoff rounds, and the Super Motocross World Championship finale. All 31 of those races. It's easy. Just get the subscription to Peacock, and you can watch everything all the time, anywhere. Like in the summer, you can watch it on your phone when you're out on the lake and still know what's going on in the motocross races. So awesome to have Peacock on board for every single round. There will be some linear TV components as well. Let's find out how that whole program came together and why Super Motocross World Championship works so well for Peacock.
Yeah, we've been lucky to have it for the last couple of years, and we had motocross the first year of Peacock, so we know firsthand how well those fans view their content, how passionate they are around these races, how they show up in droves to watch. We feel like it's the property's even rising to other levels. And having an event that's sticky from January all the way to October is something that we're really looking forward to.
It's going to be 31 events over about a 9-10 month period. So we now have a sport that has continuity, that you don't have to take a hiatus for half a year. So it's constantly there, and I think that's how we'll grow it, because we're going to get the hardcore fans. They're going to come anyway. They love it. But we need to introduce people that didn't know anything about this sport to it. And that's where the growth is going to be. And to me, that's what is the most exciting thing. The more people we can get to see it, the more enjoyment, the more excitement.
Well, it's almost weekly. I mean, you have 31 races across, those 10 months. We're splitting some of it between NBC and USA Network. All of it can be found on Peacock, of course, and Peacock will be the home of both motocross and supercross, moving forward for the next 5 years. But it's an anchor. At the end of the day, these fans, it's their favorite sport, and Peacock's going to be a part of their media diet for the next 5 years. And our hope in terms of doing this deal is that we can increase the viewership of the event, but also in terms of, sort of matriculating them around to other contents on Peacock.
And by creating the Super Motocross World Championship, that took what was 2 separate series, combined them to make 31 rounds. So now we have something, we have continuous content for 10 months of the year. Actually 12, because once the series is over, the Super Motocross World Championship, then we get into the contracts and the excitement about riders changing teams. So for once, our fans have 12 months of Supercross, motocross, and now this ultimate Super Motocross World Championship to be engaged. We've never been able to provide that to our fans before separately, but together we have built something so much bigger.
Of course, elevate the property. You have something to look forward to at the end of the season to crown a champion. I think in most of the stick and ball sports that we cover today, that's where the best viewership comes from, and so we're hopeful here that we'll see that occur as well. But yeah, that certainly adds to it all.
Okay, it's going to be fun to watch all that on Peacock, and that's just for the U.S. domestic audience. Don't forget the Supercross Video Pass for international streaming, and you get to watch our show as well, which is very important because, Daniel, you're a rock star from your old rock band days. Huge in Europe, right? Huge in Japan. So we got to go international.
Huge isn't the right word. I've been there.
Oh,
I've been there.
okay. All right. Congratulations. So yeah, watch us on the international video pass. Look, there was some confusion last year because Supercross was on Peacock and Motocross was not. So obviously this is nice to have everything all in one place, right?
It's awesome. I mean, one home. That's the most important part of all this. I can't tell you how many Saturdays have come around and I get a text from a family or a friend. Where's the races at? How do I find it? And it's like, don't have to do that anymore. That's done for 5 years. NBC, done deal. Going to be on Peacock. No questions asked. We have one home. We'll be there for every Supercross, every motocross, Super Motocross playoff. Everything is in one location. Simplified, Weege.
All right, I dig it. I dig it. We were there at the stadium last week, getting ready for all this.
Yeah, SMX Media Days. I mean, those were awesome. I think this is going to be great for the season, obviously, for us to be there and get some information. I don't know what you took away from it, but I'm starting to hear more about the 250 East-West. At least that's where my interest is. I was prying at team managers and some of the riders, too. So hearing that Jett Lawrence is West, that's official. And now the big question is who chases him down on the West. And I'm not getting all the answers I want, but I did get some of them at the Media Days.
I've never gone to the media days. This is, 5 weeks essentially before Anaheim 1. I'm shocked at how willing all the riders and teams are to play ball. I mean, they were going through 8 or 9 hours straight, these half-hour sessions over and over and over, repeating things over and over. I did not see any eye rolls, which honestly, Daniel, I expected. So that's what impressed me the most. Everybody on the same page of like, we're all trying to make dirt bike racing more popular. I thought that was cool.
Also, part of this fun week, at least for me, Weege, I don't think you were able to break away, or maybe you did. Got a chance to go out and see the KTM and the Husqvarna, like their intro, their team intros. Spent the day out there and had a chance to watch the 450 guys and 250 guys of both teams. And it's cool because you start hearing the storylines. It's different, though, when you get to put eyes on and see what Cooper Webb looks like year 2 on the new motorcycle, or what Christian Craig looks like on that Husqvarna 450, or what Tom Diao looks like. I mean, these are things that you and I are both like anticipating big time. I got a chance to see a little bit of it, and it just makes it feel that much more real.
One rider, unfortunately, we said news is coming in hot and heavy, but occasionally it's not the news we want to hear. This is really bad. So Brandon Hartraft, who had a really strong second season on a 450 with the Twisted Tea HEP Suzuki team, huge crash, huge crash. Now some of the information has come out. I know you know him pretty well. He and I are both from New Jersey, so we go way back. He should make a recovery, but man, we got to send our best thoughts, prayers, and wishes out to Hartraft. Man, that's bad.
It's going to be tough for his career. I think he's going to fight back from it. So professionally, big bummer, but still tugs at my heart, man. I'm just super bummed for Brandon, and he's a strong dude, though. He'll make a comeback. Baby Bam Bam.
We have Baby Bam Bam.
There's a Baby Bam Bam now. There's a little one now. Bam Jr. has arrived.
Yeah, so finally, Justin Barcia and his wife Amber, Sonny Gray, they've had a baby. We did not get to see Barcia actually at the Supercross media events last week because they were a little busy waiting for their first child to be welcomed into the world. Here's the thing, Daniel, you've been around a long time. Do you remember when a rider used to get married, let alone have a child? It was done. It was over. Just immediately add 2 seconds to his lap time. He was going to instantly slow down. It has become the exact opposite, led by Eli Tomac, who became the first dad to be a Supercross champ, and now he's done it twice. I don't know, maybe Barcia's going to be even better now. This is weird how this is turning out.
Hey, the Supercross pits have turned into a daycare. That's all I'm going to say, because all of a sudden, every rider's got a kid or a one on the way. But I'm thinking back to 2020, Salt Lake City. There's Tomac on the podium. He's a champ. The first champion in Supercross history to ever be a dad. How crazy is that? That in 2020, the first champ to ever be a dad, there's Eli Tomac. And since then, I swear every single rider has had a kid or two. So I don't know if this is just a trend or a fad, or if it's just the age of the athletes, because they're all a lot older now than we've seen.
Maybe they're saying, hey, it worked for Tomac. I'm just going to borrow any part of his playbook I can borrow.
He does the whoops like this. He does the corners like this. He's got a kid. Yeah. Let's do that. I don't know, but hey, there's kids everywhere now at Supercross, and now congratulations to the Barcia family. They got their own.
Let's talk 250 class a little bit. We didn't get into it much last week. You touched on it. We're starting to see East and West, not completely, because Mitch Payton and Monster Energy Pro Circuit Kawasaki will never, ever, ever, ever reveal what coast their riders are going to be riding early in the season. So we got to wait on those athletes. But we do know a few. I think Honda and Husqvarna and KTM, they've said where their racers are going to go.
Yeah, it looks like Max Vohland will start on the West Coast. Had a chance to talk to him at the team media launch. He looks ready. He's putting together good laps. He was actually doing motos with Aaron Plessinger, just doing a bunch of sprints together, and given Aaron a little bit of business in the first corner a couple times, which I liked. I liked the aggression. It's looking like maybe RJ Hampshire is going to be on the West Coast as well. The word that I've heard is that he's too ready. He's ready to go. And sometimes these teams, Jason, they don't want to like hold a guy back. If he's ready to go and drop the gate, then you don't wait for 5 more weeks for something goofy to happen. You just send him off in there. So I'm hearing that that's pretty likely. And then, of course, Jett Lawrence is the big one because he is, I mean, it's done deal. He's 250 West. The question is, who wants some of Jett? I'm just really curious what Mitch Payton does, what Bobby Reagan does. Who are you sending after Jett Lawrence there at Anaheim 1? That's the big question for me.
Okay, let's get into, you mentioned Bobby Reagan there with Star Racing. You had a very special message for Bobby last week. So apparently the show is not just SMX Insider. I think it's SMX Influencer. Let's go back to last week's show.
Bobby Reagan, and I'm talking to you right now. Let him race. He won you a 250 Supercross championship. He won you the Motocross of Nations. He's going to be part of your future more than likely. Look, he's still young and developing in a class that he's going to be good in. Just let him do it. It's the Wild West over there. You got like 500 riders on your team. Let Justin Cooper race the 450. It's as easy as that.
Well, you did it. You did it. You said last week, put Justin Cooper on a 450. And what happens this week? They're going to put Justin Cooper on a 450, Daniel.
I have a lot of power. I don't use it all the time. I don't want everyone to know about these superpowers that I have. I use them when I need them, and I needed it at that moment. I needed Justin Cooper out there, so I decided to put a little spell on Bobby, and it worked. That was easy. I mean, if there's anything else you guys want done, just let me know. I'll take care of it. That's
probably the biggest news this week, J. Coop on a 450, except the overall biggest news of the offseason. We know what that's been. Who's owned the offseason this year, Daniel? I don't know. There's not a certain guy who's been on Instagram like every couple of days just stirring the pot. No.
I haven't seen anything like that at all.
No one has ridden different bikes, different exhaust pipes in his Instagram. We finally know. Ken Roczen is back on Suzuki. The Twisted THP Suzuki team is going to have a separate wing. I believe it'll be sponsored by Progressive, and they're going to bring in Kenny Roczen and a 250 program for that squad for the first time. People love this, Daniel. They love seeing Roczen back on a Suzuki.
I think he's going to be phenomenal because he's phenomenal on anything.
I just want to throw a shout out to Dustin Pipes, one of the team owners there. He's a former privateer racer who has now built a team that has Ken Roczen on it. Suzuki is getting all the love because of the great history Roczen has already had with that brand, winning races and titles before, but a former privateer racer now has Ken Roczen on his team. It's impressive. And we saw the magic dust that team switches can lead to. Last year, the top 3 in Supercross points, Tomac, Anderson, Stewart, all were on new teams. We have riders switching right now with Craig, who we mentioned, Colt Nichols, and Roczen. Had a chance to talk to all 3 about their change of scenery.
Yeah, this whole opportunity with Honda was kind of a long shot at first, really. I thought Honda and Ken Roczen would continue their relationship, and it just didn't end up working out. They split and went their separate ways, and we kind of planted the seed with Honda months prior. Like I said, just thinking kind of a long shot, and one thing led to another. They called after they decided Kenny was going to leave and they weren't going to keep that relationship going. To land here was kind of the best possible scenario, so it was unexpected, but like I said, the best possible thing ended up working, which is pretty rare, but pretty excited to be here.
Yeah, I mean, 2022 was definitely a year I'll never forget. Winning my first title, and then just having the year I did. Plenty of wins, podiums, and yeah, securing that finally that #1 plate that I was chasing for so long. Looking back, I like to enjoy it and think about those days, but we're here now, focusing on 2023, new team, new program, new bike. So a lot kind of going on, but this is kind of what I've worked for my whole life, is to be in this situation now, racing the best guys in the world.
I ended up going with the Progressive Insurance X-Star Suzuki team, and I'm very excited about that because obviously I have a long history with Suzuki throughout my career, multiple times, and as soon as I jumped on the bike, of course I'm still learning the bike, but something felt very familiar, and I was really comfortable on it right away, and I guess the bike just did something to me that was unique and special, and I enjoy it every time I go on the track, and I can just focus on my riding and just have a good time with it. So I think it was the perfect fit, and I'm excited to see what the future holds.
Speaking of new teams, okay, the Roczen news was huge this week, and the Justin Cooper racing some 450 events was huge, but in the grand scheme, this is actually bigger. We had bigger news pop up Remember December 13th. That's the day it was officially announced, Daniel. We have a new manufacturer coming to the sport next year in Triumph. This is legit.
Lucky for the fans of Supercross, you all get to hear an interview, the big interview this week for episode 2 with Jeremy Appleton of Triumph. Learn a little bit more about the brand.
We are joined by Jeremy Appleton from Triumph. Now, you fans have probably heard that Triumph had already announced their intentions to go racing in both Supercross and Motocross. I know people want bikes and race teams and results right now. We got to wait a little bit, but you have a bit of a timeline at least for us, right?
We do. We are going to be here in January 24.
Okay.
So we have a year to finalize everything and be ready. We're well down the track, but yeah, a little bit of work to do just yet.
What I thought was interesting is you could have taken Triumph people who maybe are experienced in motorcycles but not in Supercross. But instead, all the principals, Bobby Hewitt and Scuba Steve, both of the Rockstar Energy program back in the day, Ricky Carmichael's involvement, Dave Arnold, who was with Factory Honda for a long time. You have taken motocross and Supercross people and injected them into your racing operation.
Yes, we have. We've taken the very best motocross people, as I think we can all agree, because we want to be competitive from the get-go. Triumph has a massive amount of engineering experience. Lots of very passionate people back at the factory in Hinckley who are all working very hard on this program, but the one thing that we don't have back there is experience of being out here. So no, we've set out to have the best people around us to make us as competitive as we can be.
What's it been like for you working with Ricky and all that comes with Ricky, all the different personality traits that he loves to share?
Firstly, a huge privilege. The insights that he has are massively valuable. He opens many doors, but I think the most important thing is that he has that depth of knowledge. He's been there, done that, knows what a bike needs to feel like. So having him on the program is valuable in many ways, but I think for the engineering team to just have his endorsement of what they're doing has been, really great.
You're making it even harder to wait because you keep saying this will be different. This is not going to look or feel like motocross bikes as we've seen them. It's going to be distinctly Triumph.
It's definitely going to be distinctly Triumph because the team back in the UK have conceived it, designed it, developed it. I'm not going to be drawn on how different it's going to be or how similar it's going to be, but it's going to be a good motorcycle. We've then got a job of work to do to make it competitive for Supercross, but it will be a Triumph and it will have some Triumph DNA for sure.
It's not a partnership, an engineering alliance with any other motocross company though. This is a clean sheet.
Absolutely clean sheet. Triumph does everything in-house, and this bike has gone the same way. And there are a lot of Triumph people involved, so it's important to recognise their efforts. And I think, Triumph has good engineering credentials, and in racing. We're in the Moto2 World Championship, and we've been successful there, competitive. And there is a wealth of experience to bring, but it is very much about being a Triumph, and that's the brief.
We're in Anaheim Stadium. This is where a lot of this goes down. What's it feel like for you on a personal level to be here knowing that we're not that far away? A year goes by very quickly. You're going to be in this stadium racing Supercross.
I mean, obviously being here, this is such an iconic venue. We're looking forward to being here. We know we've got a job of work to do, and we also know the level of competition we're coming up against. So we've got a year to be ready now. But yeah, it comes down to building a competitive race bike, and that's what the team is all about, that we've announced today. But I can't wait, when the stadium's full and that 250 gate drops, then all bets are off.
But it's such a hard task to get to that level. Why? Why did Triumph decide to take on, they're already successful in what they do, to take on such a big risk, a big financial investment, I would imagine? There's so much that can go right or wrong here. Why did they decide to take such a huge leap?
Well, I think Triumph is, confident, backing themselves that with all the past engineering experience that we can put a good bike out there. It's more about what it can do for Triumph in the future. We put a lot of street bikes out which are popular, well received. This is an opportunity to grow a new market for Triumph. Motocross is exciting, the off-road world is growing, so it's a good diversification, if you like. The other thing is that you have a lot of young eyeballs on you. As you know, the demographic here is attractive, and that's good for Triumph. We want to go to a wider global audience. Supercross, motocross, the Supercross Motocross World Championship can deliver that. So every good reason to be here. And yes, there are some risks, but I think we're prepared to weigh them up and take them. We're looking forward to being here in January 24 and speaking to you guys again.
Okay, we're going to transition over to what we like to call Fowler's Facts. We're bringing in our stat man, Clinton Fowler. Last week, we gave some data on the 450 division. This week, we're going to talk 250 class. And that's going to mean Jett Lawrence at the top. Jett Lawrence, who's won the last 3 titles he's competed for. You can be our stat man, Clinton, but the word man is Daniel Blair. Because, Daniel, you were throwing this generational talent thing out there a little while ago, and people were questioning it. But now we have numbers to back it up, Daniel.
Yeah, I got some heat when that first came out. And for me, it was the eye test. I saw him doing things on the motorcycle that others weren't, especially for his age. And I took a little bit of a leap. I said, he's a generational talent, and lucky for me, he's won 3 titles since. So what do those stats look like? Because we all know Jett's special, but he's starting to rack up the wins.
Yeah, Daniel, I think you called it. Your eye test was spot on. Jett is generational. And what's really interesting is to look at where he sits amongst some of the all-time legends. So if you look at the absolute top of the echelon, you got James Stewart, Ricky Carmichael, Ryan Villapoto. Those guys absolutely killed it when they were in 59 races into their career, which is a number of races Jett Lawrence is in. Those guys were absolutely the top 3. No questions asked. But when you look at who he's right next to, Chad Reed. You look at who he's in front of, Jimmy McGrath, Ryan Dungey, Eli Tomac. These guys are guys we know are all-time greats, and he's got a lot more wins and more champions than any of those 3 guys. So clearly is a generational talent amongst the all-time greats.
Daniel, I guess the real question is, okay, that's history, right? But everybody wants to know about Jett, the future and the present. So what are you thinking there, Daniel?
Well, I mean, we'll start with the names he's mentioned: James Stewart, Ricky Carmichael, Villapoto. These are all-time greats. These are the Mount Rushmores. Pick who you want to put up there. But I'm interested in how he compares to the field he's racing this year in 2023, because on paper, he seems to be the best. Visually, I still think he's the best. But there are young riders coming up that are going to have to deal with a very polished and perfected Jett Lawrence, Clinton.
Yeah, Daniel, you're spot on. I mean, obviously the eye test is there. The numbers are there. He compares against the all-time greats. So you look at 2023. Anybody that doesn't have him as a favorite to win the championship clearly hasn't been watching him, right? But there are a few guys in the mix. In particular, the one that sticks out for me, Austin Forkner. 82 races into his career, 13 wins. Of all the competition, that's for sure the closest, assuming he races on the West Coast. But Austin's challenge has been injuries. 4 seasons, 4 injuries where he's missed races. You can't win championships if you miss races. So when I look at it and I think about 2023, I think he's got the championship. I think it's going to be on Austin. It's going to be on a guy like RJ Hampshire. Joe Shimoda maybe could step up. It's going to be on those guys to step up and try to compete for that championship. But you got to go with Jett as the favorite going into the season.
Clinton Fowler, thanks for all the information. We'll talk to you again next week, man.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Okay, that's going to do it for the second edition. It's your SMX Insiders. I'm Jason. He's Daniel. And over the next couple of weeks, Anaheim is here in less than a month. You can get your tickets right now. Normally things turn quiet, but I don't know. There seems to be something different about December this year, Daniel. It's been pretty wild.
Yeah, we're lucky. Things have kind of been on delay as far as Ken Roczen's story, Justin Cooper to the fourth. All those things have been kind of on hold. So lucky for us, December is actually a little hotter than normal. I'm not going to complain. Look, we just launched this show. Perfect timing. News is hitting us. Let's talk about it.
Yeah, keep it coming, everybody. Absolutely. It's been fun to cover, and we got a couple more weeks for You Go Racing. So get your tickets now and get ready to watch on Peacock. Make sure you're up to date and you got your subscription there ready. He's Daniel. I'm Jason. We're the SMX Insiders. See you next week.